So yeah, thanks so much for joining this webinar, how to win an UnAward, brackets, how to get shortlisted for an UnAward, because I think in some of the categories where you've got 30, 40 plus entries, actually a shortlist is a real achievement as well. It might not feel like it on the day if you haven't won and you was, one of four in the shortlist, but it is an incredible achievement. So yeah, so how to win or get shortlisted for an UnAward. That didn't sound such a sexy title though, so we didn't go with the longer version. So yeah, great to see so many of you on the call. As I say, we've got a glittering array on our panel, got all sorts of skills and knowledge and experience of UnAwards and also other awards. Other awards are available as well. And what I always think is when you're crafting your UnAwards entry, there's some really good base material there that you can use in your other award entries as well. So hopefully a double whammy there. So what we'll do, I've got just a couple of slides to share to give it some semblance of professionalism, because the idea is it's very much informal today. It's a chat amongst friends from the community for 50 minutes to an hour. And so I've got a few slides I'll go through, give it a little bit of structure. And then what we'll do, I'll kick off things, ask some questions of our panel, and then we'll literally just open it up to all of you. And you can either put your hand up and we'll come to you and get your question, or you can type your question into the chat and we'll do it that way. So either option, whichever suits you. If you want your camera on, you can do. It'd be nice to see you. If not, absolutely, that's fine as well. But I suppose, yeah, first I'll just share a few slides just to give a little bit of background as to where we're at with the UnAwards 2024, which if any of you have listened to me, and hopefully you can see this okay. If any of you have listened to me recently, you'll know it's the ninth annual UnAwards, which is certainly for me very exciting. Um, it's doing it because obviously we had the COVID year where it didn't happen. So next year will actually be the 10th, and already been chatting with some of the sponsors about some exciting plans for the 10th annual UnAwards. But more of that another time. So yeah, the ninth annual UnAwards, and welcome to our webinar, How to Win an UnAward. I suppose first, just if it works, I haven't tested this, hopefully it works. We've got a little movie to show which those talented people at Alive with Ideas pulled together for me. So thanks very much to Alan and the team. And we'll just see if this little quick 30-second video does work. Exciting stuff, hey? So yeah, thanks to Alan and the team for that. So that's been on social. You may have seen that before, but if not, hopefully it gets the juices flowing and gets some of you inspired to enter, maybe for the first time, or maybe for some of you to enter again this year. Just a quick word about the timeline. Obviously, they've been live for a couple of weeks. I nag and I nag and I nag everybody I know and some people that I don't know to get cracking early. There's a fantastic online entry form which JP and the team at Can Digital helped pull together last year, and it's been refined again this year, which really means you can go in and start today, and then you can go back at any given time to kind of add to it, to tweak it, to make it even better. So what we always say is, please don't wait till the last minute. Make a start early. So you could do that today. The links are all over the Comms 2.0 website and also the dedicated UnAwards website, and you'll see them on LinkedIn as well. So entries are open. Tickets are on sale as well. So ticket prices are held same as previous year's prices. So it's £30 a ticket. So thanks for those that have already bought tickets. Remember, it sells out every year. That's not one of those cheesy sales pitches. It genuinely sells out every year. And because it's held in a very cool cinema, we have a very, very strict capacity of 141, and we can't get a single person more in there for health and safety reasons, as you would imagine. So when they're gone, they're gone. So Of course, what happens is when the shortlist comes out, there's a big ticket scramble, and that's when they sell out. But if you want to make sure you're there first, because to be honest, whether you've been shortlisted or not, it's actually a lovely end of year celebration and a great chance to connect and network with colleagues, you know, sort of past and present. So yeah, they're on sale. So the big news is entries close on the 30th of October. So it's literally 3 weeks today. So they will close at midnight. And I've put there in big bold letters, please note, this deadline is never extended. And that's true. We will not be extending the deadline. So we never have done and we never will. So just to put that out there. We then in three categories, which is the Lifetime Achievement Award, the Team of the Year, and the Guest Post of the Year. Some of you may remember, or maybe not if you're new to the UnAwards, is we have three categories which are decided by public vote, which is all very exciting. So that will happen behind the scenes, and we'll announce that in the coming weeks. Then we publish the shortlist, and then that's when the ticket sales go a little bit crazy. Public voting will close on the 25th of November. The event itself is on the Friday the 6th. It's always, the first Friday in December. And back in the day, people said, well, you can't do it in December. But actually, the truth is, nothing happens in December other than Christmas. So, yeah, December it is, and it's a real lovely feel. If you've not been before, would absolutely endorse and urge people to get along for a fun working day. And it is a work day. There was somebody once asked me a couple of years back who was thinking of coming along, and they said, "My boss wants to know, is this a work thing?" I said, "Absolutely, it's a work thing, but work doesn't need to be dull." So it is absolutely work. You just won't really feel like it. So that will happen, and it runs from 10 till about 3 o'clock in the Everyman Cinema in the Mailbox in Birmingham. So a really lovely venue, which has become the home of the UnAwards. We use it every year. Going back a step, there is also a pre-UnAwards social, and we run that at the Indian Streetery. Some of you will have been before. A lovely family-owned restaurant in the centre of Brum, where they sell delicious Indian street food. And so we essentially take over half the restaurant. So again, there is a limited number of tickets available for that. All of this is on the UnAwards dedicated website. So just click on timeline. You'll find all the information to enter, B on ticket sales, and C to come along to the social event. So that gives you a little steer on the timeline. In terms of categories, look at me, I've put a QR code in, look at that. That will take you straight to the categories page. There are 21 categories this year, so we've got a new category, which is always exciting. Last year we had a new category which Alex Waddington from Whetstone Communications sponsored, which was best use of data, and that was great to see that, and really added an extra layer of richness, I think, to the entries. This year, same again. So Dominic from Behaviour Change Network has sponsored best use of behaviour change, and I think Laurel's on the panel today, so we'll talk to Laurel about that, because Laurel's going to be helping to judge that brand new category. So yeah, there's 21 to go at. There literally is something for everyone. So we've got everything from best crisis comms, best creative comms. The creative section, we get people like Alan from Alive of Ideas to help judge that. There are typically 30, 40 odd entries in there. So it's a lot of work for the judges, and a big hat tip and a big thank you to the judges for doing that, because it's anyone that's ever judged awards before will know it's actually an awful lot of work. It's fun, it's interesting, it's actually quite educational as well, but it is also a lot of hours. So thank you for that. We've got best ethical comms, we've got best young communicator, we've got best use of email, which I think sometimes flies beneath the radar and doesn't seem to get the same kind of sexy vibe as social media, but email's really important. It's fundamentally important to what we do. So do have a think about that. Best low cost is typically the most entered category. For obvious reasons, most of the entries come from the public sector, and most of you don't have enormous budgets. So best low cost or free comms is in there. We have put a limit on there this year, because in previous years we have had people that have entered, and on the face of it, quite a high budget, but it really depends, doesn't it? Because it's different things to different people. So we've put a limit of £10,000 on best low cost comms. You could argue £10,000 too high as well, because for some of you, you might have 500 quid at best. So, but it will be judged by the judges on its merits. So there is a limit of £10,000 for that category. Best small team, I think we've got Gedling's famous Rob, who won that best small team UnAward a couple of years ago, which sparked lots of excitement in the venue on the day, which was great to see. We have also got best work by an agent who are freelance, and I think that's really important because when I was in house, I always said, and again, it probably sounded cheesy, but the suppliers and the agencies were a genuine extension of my comms team because you just get better work by working with agencies. For some of you, you might not be able to afford that necessarily or all of the time, but I think again, working with agencies adds a real richness to our work and our insights and our learning and our outputs and our outcomes. So there is a category for agencies to enter. We've got best collaboration, which I think JP and the team at Cannes won for the fantastic collaboration around the fostering campaign with councils and others around the UK. And I think at last count, 80 plus councils collaborating and able to run a national campaign tailored locally using a fantastic and really actually quite moving video for an absolute fraction of what they would have spent on it uh, without that kind of collaboration. So that's been great to see. And then we run through to, as I say, the team of the year, which is always really popular. The lifetime achievement vote. We've had a couple of entries already for that, which I'm really excited to see, and that's a lovely thing. And I think just worth saying on that, it might not be necessarily a case of nominating yourself, but thinking about others in the industry who you don't have to have been around for as long as me, but people that have made a substantial achievement to the comms industry, do think about nominating them because I think that's actually a lovely thing to do as well. So a quick run through of the categories. Hopefully there's something for everyone. The big thing to say is you can enter multiple categories on one single entry form. And again, because the clever people at Cannes have designed the form in that way, you might enter best creative comms. It was also low cost. It also used social media, or it had a fantastic video. You may have had elements of behavior change in it. You may have used data in a really smart way. You could easily enter 6 categories on one entry form and would absolutely endorse people to do that because A, it's simple to do. Why wouldn't you? But B, you're spreading the chances of getting a shortlisting to be frank. And some categories get more entries than others, and sometimes, thinking about entering some of the categories that are perhaps less popular, that's a really smart thing to do. So do that. I would endorse you to do that. A big thank you to the sponsors because genuinely this thing would not happen without them. Or it would, but we'd charge about £500 a ticket and lots of money to enter. And it just wouldn't be the same thing. And frankly, I'd stop running it because the whole point of the UnAwards is it's meant to be the most accessible awards around, certainly for the public sector. So a big thank you to Cannes, to Alive with Ideas, to Orlo and to eShot for being our official partners this year. And big thank you to our sponsors. Got the Local Government Association. We've got Ben Capper from Grey Fox Comms and Marketing. Dominic Wrigley Moy from the Behaviour Change Network. We've got Mandy from Seashell Communications, who's on the panel today. So thanks to Mandy for that. We've got Parago and we've got M. Northcote from Parago, who's on the call today. And we've got Alex. Can I call you Alex, King of Data? I know you'll shout for me saying that, but I've come to think of Alex as the king of data from Whetstone Communications. So thanks so much to all of the sponsors who very genuinely make this thing possible. So a big thank you to those. So that's enough from me. What I shall start doing now is picking the brains of the clever people on the panel. As I say, what we'll do is you can either, I'll ask a few questions just to get the ball rolling, and then you can either put your hand up and we'll come to you kind of in order of the hands that are risen, or you can put your questions into the chat and we'll have a look at those and we'll pose them to the panel. But yeah, I suppose kick things off perhaps with Laurel. Great to see you, Laurel. So you're both a previous winner and now also past couple of years you've been a judge in the UnAwards. So you've got quite a unique perspective on things really. And I think this year you're going to be helping judge on the best use of behaviour change for the all new category this year. So yeah, keen to find out. So you'll be judging that. There's been some brilliant behaviour change work happened again this year. Um, what specifically would you be looking out for a standout entry that might get somebody shortlisted in this category? What's your top tips and advice?
Sure, sure. So I'm a big fan of the GCS model of evaluation. And one of the key things that having judged the crisis comms category last year that made the difference with the winning entry as well is to really see those outcomes, to see some tangible facts, figures around the difference that your campaign has made. So obviously with behavior change, that's seeing the figures before of, I don't know, it could be something like recycling or vaccination programs or fostering of this is what the figures were like before and this is what the figures were like at the end, and this is the difference that comms has made at the end. Those facts and figures feel really, really key. The outcomes part, obviously the rest of the GCS model is really important, but the outcomes is the bit that you where the sort of the rubber hits the road, if you like, and you see that difference that comes out. But obviously the anecdotal outtakes, if I can pinch from Lindsay Coulson here, I know she talks a lot as well about if you can get some nice endorsement from if your council, some of your council leaders or people who've made that behavior change and can say how they've seen the campaign that's made a difference. That's just the cherry on top. So
Yeah, I think that's really, really wise words, isn't it? And I think getting those testimonials from people, we tend to be not great at asking for testimonials, don't we? Or maybe that's just me. I always forget to do it. But yeah, I think it's really valuable, isn't it? Really valuable. So yeah, some useful tips there. Thank you, Laurel. Perhaps next come to Mandy, because Mandy, you're someone that's both won awards and judged awards and been around the awards world for a while now. Um, so as a judge, I mean, you're again, thank you for judging this year again in the UnAwards. What using your experience and insights, what are the top couple of things you look out for when you're sifting through potentially quite a big batch of entries?
For me, I think I want to see that there's some clear research and insight, whether that's data, like from Alex's perspective, or whether it's qualitative research work that's helping you actually understand the audience. So it's not based on hunch. It's properly researched and looked through. And the second thing I really want to see is really clear, smart objectives, because as Laurel's saying, you want to do the evaluation and the measurement, but if you don't nail those objectives and make sure they are really specific, then it's actually impossible to do the evaluation. And, whether it's small campaigns with virtually no budget or really big agencies with multi-100,000 pound budget, you still see this kind of vagueness around objectives. And then as a judge, you begin to think, well, if the objectives were vague, where's all this evaluation coming from? Are they just giving me a bunch of metrics that go, whoa, we did a great job, but did it really move the dial, which is exactly what Laurel was saying. So I really want to see really good objectives.
Yeah, that's great advice, Mandy. And I think, yeah, I judged in some NHS awards last year or earlier this year. And there was one particular entry, it got fantastic creatives that I really loved and was really drawn towards it. But it was a little bit let down on that smart objective setting at the start and then the evaluation. And I think you've been talking to that an event about evaluation, haven't you, Mandy? So it's something that you're known to do well.
Yeah, I think it's just really important because the creative is lovely, but I have seen quite dull but worthy campaigns actually win awards just because they do it really well and solidly. So it's kind of, you want to see both. Really thorough, really solid, use the Oasis model, but then, wow, that creative as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really, really helpful. And I have had people because obviously again, anyone that's new to the UnAwards in the spring of next year, if those lovely sponsors again are very kind and sponsor it, we run the UnAwards Winners Masterclass, which is a free to attend event for the community. We now hold it in the same venue, which is lovely. And so 140 people get the chance of a day's free learning to really find out what the winners did and the lessons that they learned. sometimes, I mean, there's been some amazing work that over the years. Sometimes you'll get the odd winner, and somebody will say to me quietly afterwards, "We've done stuff like that." It's like, yeah, but you didn't enter. And that's it, isn't it? And the judges will go on the stuff that was entered, quite obviously. So it's the best of the work that was entered in the opinions of judges, experienced judges who have done this before, who will be looking out for smart objectives and good evaluations, and outputs are great, yeah, but what was the outcome? So I think, yeah, really, really good advice. Yeah, so thanks, Mandy. So I'm going round in the kind of order here. So M Northcote, great to see you with your fancy new Parago branding. I really like it. Yeah, looks good.
Yep.
So obviously, again, I think you're a previous winner of awards in the industry, and lots of experience as a previous head of comms in the police in Wales. You'll be judging, I think, again this year. So thank you for that. What is there anything from the past where you've seen previous entries or entries of your own, in fact, that either didn't work or did win an awards? Again, what kind of top tips would you give to people watching today?
I think what was said there just now about people seeing winners and thinking, well, we've done that, or we've done better than that, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy not to see the value in your own work when you're in a space of sort of on that hamster wheel of ploughing through and getting stuff done. I think it's really easy to speaking from experience, then to become bogged down with it, and you do it, and it's not until afterwards you think, actually, there was value in that. Actually, we have changed something. I think for me, when we have put nominations or we put entries in for awards, we're always sort of up against the clock. We're always up to the last minute. And I think I've worked it out. If there's 3 weeks left, if we took 20 minutes a day to sort of squirrel away and to pull some stuff together, that'd give you a whole working day practically. That's 7 hours you could dedicate to focusing on this if you've got no other time, But for me, that would be my lesson, I think, in putting nominations forward, is to try your best to carve that time out to recognise the work that you've done, and to show the team that you're recognising the work that's been done as well. Because the value of saying, being able to go back to an organisation and show, look what we've achieved, look how we've been judged outside of this organisation, particularly if you're in a challenging space as well. It's just a pick me up, isn't it? And everyone needs a pick me up.
Absolutely, 100% agree, Em, and I think, yeah, thank you for that. I think years back when I was in house and I joined an organisation that was probably fair to describe as an underperforming organisation, and within that the comms team wasn't underperforming, but certainly never even thought about entering an award, never mind get shortlisted. And when we set out, it was a lovely organisation that knew it was a little bit rubbish but wanted to improve, and it had people that were dedicated to doing that, and you can work with that, can't you? And we said, right, do you know what, we're going to start entering awards, and we won't get shortlisted initially, but we will turn that around. We will learn, we will improve, we will make sure our evaluation and outcomes are better. And over the 2-year period, we did start getting shortlisted, and then we did start winning awards. And I've never met a chief exec yet that doesn't like an award entry plonk or an award win plonked on their desk. And I do think it's that internal kind of recognition, which sometimes is missing for comms teams, isn't it? Let's be honest. That external endorsement from, professional judges like yourselves who have been there and done it and got several t-shirts, that's really powerful. And I think it can really lift an individual or a comms team at a time when, let's again be blunt, there's some people struggling out there at the moment. It's hard, it's tough, isn't it? It's a tough place to be in comms in the public sector. So an award shortlisting can be a real kind of fillip for people. So yeah, I think some wise words there, Em. Thank you. I'm going to carry on with some questions. Don't forget to put your questions in the chat or raise a hand, because we're keen to get questions from yourselves in the audience today. Hannah, if I can come to you next, Hannah, from Orlo. So I think one of the categories you'll be looking at is best social media campaign. That's always really popular, and there's been some fabulous work over the years that has won that, and it's a very competitive category. So yeah, we've obviously it's your bread and butter, isn't it? What would you be looking out for from Orlo in terms of what's likely to be needed to get shortlisted in that category?
Yeah, from our customer basis, I can only imagine how competitive that category is. But yeah, went away to the team at Orlo who were part of judging these categories around social. And there was a couple of things. I feel like I'm jumping on some of the other panelists' ideas, but as you said, everything's quite interlinked when it comes to these categories. But the first one that everyone kind of shouted, and I'm sure Alex and Darren will advocate for, was data. It was around, what are the SMART objectives that you set out for that campaign or for that specific social media channel? And not only showing the data as to engagement, click-through rate, but actually what is similar to what Laurel mentioned, the outcomes of that. What is the real world impact of doing a campaign on fostering or vaccinations? What does that mean for the citizens, for the whole organisation, and that kind of real world impact. So going that one step further with that data. And then to kind of on the flip side of that spectrum, it's that proactive side with the data, but also that reactiveness, something that you've done differently that stands out. I think that's probably comms professional superpower, right? Being creative, doing something different to your neighbouring council or your neighbouring NHS trust. And I think as Em highlighted, like, shout about that, don't be scared to, like, really put across what you've done, why you've done it, and the success of that too. And the final point was, at all, if you spoke to any of us or know any about the work that we do, I'm sure there's a few customers on the call. We are kind of at a point where our vision is to create stronger and more resilient communities. And if you can interlink that campaign with that vision around, how have you impacted the citizens of your community by doing this work, that's only going to kind of promote that social media campaign, as you said, with people higher up in the council or the trust or the housing association. So really being able to share, what is the impact of that work, not just on social media, but as a whole. So yeah, excited to see people's entries.
That's really helpful. Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, some really useful insights there. And yeah, as I say, it'll be, again, a really popular category again this year. So yeah, look forward to seeing who enters there. Thank you for that. I'll come to Alan next. Alan Oram, who many of you know from the fabulous Alive with Ideas. Alan's been responsible for all of the lovely artwork this year. And the little video I played earlier, which apparently the sound didn't come out, did it? But I'll reshare it again on social for those that missed it, because yeah, the voiceover is great, isn't it?
It's all right. Favour from a mate, so we called it.
He's got a great voice, though, hasn't he? Wouldn't be the same if I'd done it.
Yeah, it's what he does. So he's a voice for radio, absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. So one of the questions for you, I mean, very often you judge the best creative comms, don't you? Obviously, because that's you're known for this, aren't you? I mean, you've even got books on such things now, haven't you? We were talking about your new book yesterday, weren't we? Alan's got a fantastic book out, everybody, and would definitely. It's on my coffee table at the moment, so I have begun reading it. So yeah, do check out Alan Oram's new book around creativity. But we'll do more of that another day. What do you look out for? Because again, it's a really popular category, isn't it? And how can people stand out in a really busy, cluttered kind of field of entries? What are the things that you look for?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think, I mean, it definitely overlaps with some of what others have spoken about, but it's about covering all of the bases in the entry requirements, which sounds really dull. Yeah, I'm sorry to kick it off in that way when it's about a creative kind of aspect to winning an award. But because I'm right in saying someone's asked a question about how different things are judged, but the structure of the entries is pretty much the same across the board, I think. Is that fair to say? So it's important that all the bases are covered, and we've got good kind of objectives from the entry, and I think it's important to say that creativity can come through a number of different ways. So I think we can often get distracted by, is it a creative execution in terms of its design, look and feel and all of that sort of stuff. But there might be something that you've done from a media strategy or from an engagement approach that actually we'd love to see a bit more of that stuff come through as well, because there's been a few occasions where you can tell people are leaning on the execution and perhaps not fulfilling the other parts of the entry quite so much, which is all good. It's good to get into the habit of entering and building a stronger, more robust entry. But I think it's just making sure it's a really rounded approach, and you're highlighting the element that you see as the creative sort of aspect within that campaign or project, because it's not all about the execution. We've seen quite hefty budgets put to campaigns where there's examples, a billion examples of all of the different banners and ads and everything that's gone out. And it's like, well, actually, it feels more like a machine's been put in place to churn this stuff around rather than some genuine kind of spark that's brought to it. Because it could be just a great copy line, you know, that really stands out and brings the whole campaign to life. It could be a use of media tactics or engagement work that you've done, some sort of ambient execution that sort of really brings it to life. So it can come through in so many different ways. So if there's, and the scale of the projects as well are often quite vast. So we don't tend to, we're not looking for someone that's gone out and spent loads of cash either. And whilst they can be a little bit distracting with, you know, we've spent £30,000 on media or whatever it is, sometimes it's really lovely to see someone just think, I've got a problem to solve and I'm going to use my creativity to do it in a way that doesn't involve a budget particularly. So I don't know, that's quite broad, and I've probably just opened up the door to even more entries. But let's get them in and let's have a look at them, because yeah, it's a really broad sort of category. So, and that's the kind of a challenge and the richness of what that is. So we really enjoy it. Yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but it's just that.
It's super helpful, and I think you're right. Sometimes we think about creativity just from the visual element, don't we? And I think that's actually really useful. And I know it's something Alex talks about from his data board. We can be creative with data, can't we? And I think there's lots of elements to this. So that's really helpful. Thanks, Alan. Someone's helpfully put the link to your book in the chat as well, which is super helpful. I think Ruby was after the title of it. So yeah, it's in the chat for those that would like to. It's brilliant, but it's a lovely looking book as well. It's a proper coffee table book, isn't it? It's on my coffee table next to Joe Lycett's coffee table book. I mean, this is like creative royalty. Look at this. So yeah, thanks, Alan. I think next to JP, many of you will know JP, who's Director of Collaboration at Can Digital, friends to the UnAwards and friends to the industry, frankly. I mean, supporting and sponsoring so many events and collaborations. So great to see JP. So yeah, and obviously the team behind have helped with things like the entry form and all that kind of stuff. So you've got quite a wide perspective, both as a judge, but also a sponsor, and then also the mechanics behind the scenes, and you get to see entries as they're coming in and being worked upon. So yeah, any words of wisdom, JP, from you?
Well, thank you, Dan. That's very kind of you to say. And I wanted to sort of big up Dom's new award, the Behaviour Change Award, and maybe think about some of the things that people get stuck on, or some of the barriers. That late rush is highly likely to be very stressful for a lot of people. And I wanted to sort of look at that and tackle that a little bit using, as Dom would advise, the EAST framework. And looking at that, you know, it is actually very easy to submit an award. Some have been done in 15 minutes, very close to the deadline. I've heard from some people. So making a meal of it, don't worry too much. It's more about, as everyone else has been saying, the objectives being well defined, the outcomes being clear, and less is more. In a lot of instances, judges often have to wade through quite a lot of activity that doesn't necessarily connect to outcomes. But if it's too much, I'd thoroughly recommend speaking to Lindsay Coulson, who is a brilliant awards writing specialist. And I don't think there's the awards that she's worked on that I've been involved in, they've all been at least shortlisted, and most have won. So maybe use that as a first step to talk about maybe the approach and get her view on whether you should go forward with it. I think as well, it's people talked about Oasis, and thank you for sharing that update framework, Laurel, because that deals a little bit more with some of the things that might take a lot of work off your plate. Another framework is the AMEC framework, and I think the new Oasis framework does this, but really being clear on the difference between outputs, outtakes, and outcomes. I think a lot of people sometimes confuse those and put a lot of activity, lists and lists of reams of activity, which is admirable, but it won't beat something that's got really, really strong outcomes. And it's, I think, really worth knowing those things and being clear about what is what. It's great to hear about the work you've done, but often it might be useful to take the advice of Edna Boampong from NHS Confed, and she talks about making friends with the service and the data guy and getting them to give you any advice that they can or any potential outcomes that you may not have thought of. So she ran a winter campaign once, and actually she was able to demonstrate 5 million in savings from the ambulance service. They were trying to do one thing and they found that there was actually a really positive impact somewhere else. So if zooming in on those outcomes and maybe having a conversation with the data guy, if you say to them, look, we're thinking of submitting this for an award, is there anything you can give me? They'll love to be a part of it, most of them, I think. And it can really enhance what you do. And then being able to estimate financial impact on services can really strengthen that outcomes bit. And make it very hard for a judge to put that to one side. Another really strong thing to do is you might, if you've got Orlo, they can run insight for you and to see if during the period of the campaign there was any change in sentiment, share of voice, if your influencer status updated during that period. There are loads of wonderful additional outcome measures that you can plug into things. So definitely, if you've got the Orlo platform, definitely worth speaking to them on that front as you put the campaign together. So I was trying to sort of zoom in on the easy bit and reducing the amount of work. And with that piece of tech that Darren's got now on the UnAwards, you can start now. And I think taking that first step, I've got this idea, this is the one I want to put in, it's got really strong outcomes. Get going now, and it may be a lot less work than you think. And certainly in terms of our workloads and mental health, you can probably get it off your desk quite quickly. And certainly before that stressful last day. I think in terms of some of the more ethereal benefits, around it being attractive, social, and timely, it feels great to firstly celebrate what you do and then potentially get shortlisted. It's really good for your team to know that you're going this, that their work is being celebrated and recognised, and you can enter for that with that same process for many other awards as well. I think the social element of the UnAwards is really powerful, both the day itself and the masterclasses. Connection, I think with comms people, there's a lot of yellows in yellow personality types, and that connection being together just feels great, and it's such a good thing for the team to do. Also, I think it's timely to do this because we're entering budget period, and demonstrating the value of comms now and in December, and then swanning around with an award in January and February as various axes loom, I think is a really good bit of internal PR, good bit of comms to be demonstrating. We deliver impact. Investing in us accelerates things. If you communicate well, everything takes half the effort, or you get 4 times more outcomes. Just being on people's minds, as Darren was saying, that chief exec bit, everyone loves an award. We were taking these awards around to all of the foster care collaboration people, and they loved it. Directors of services loved it, and it helped people say, so you're not going to cut the investment in foster care recruitment, are you? So that there's neat ways of using that as well, and it's a very good time to be doing it. But generally, keep it simple, focus on the outcomes, not so much outputs and outtakes, and take the first step now and start thinking about the piece of work, and then just get going, and then you'll be on the road and it'll be easier than you think.
I'm glad we've recorded this because that was really valuable. I think there's lots in there, and actually wider than just UnAwards. Some fantastic wise words in there, JP. Thank you. I was going to come to Alex next. Is Alex still here? I can't see Alex in my little window.
Yeah, I'm still here, D.
You've fallen off my screen, Alex.
I'm back.
but you're back, so that's great. So yeah, Alex, again, so last year, as I said, you sponsored for the first time the best use of data, and it was great to see that and getting the entries in. And I think this year we hopefully get even more entries in this category. So yeah, what what will you be looking for from a data perspective in terms of when you're beginning to shortlist the entries that come in? What are the key things for you?
Yeah, well, kind of don't want to necessarily repeat what everybody else has said, and it's great to hear data mentioned, as a common thread through a lot of those tips and a lot of those answers. And it's also worth me saying that I've diversified the judging this year, realizing perhaps it's good to have a diversity of thoughts. So Carla from Islington and Farid from Manchester's team are helping with the judging this year, which is great. But from my perspective, I think adding to what's been said, I think seeing that data is being used and considered throughout the process, not just the evaluation, is important and can play a part in that. I think that's echoing what perhaps Mandy said and others. So how have you looked to use data, particularly in the discovery phase, perhaps at the start of a campaign, to understand your audience, to really, really understand? In terms of the sort of creative side, I would love to see personally anybody who's done anything with data storytelling would be great to see, because I think in journalism increasingly now, in the media, data storytelling is really kind of part of normal journalism, and it'd be great to see comms kind of embracing that as well. So anybody's been doing any work on that, I think that would be worth putting in. I think that kind of so what factor, linking, as JP has said very well there, linking, yes, the outcomes, but actually then data on the impact. And if you can link up, sort of the data you've got on, say, the campaign with, here's an impact on service, on savings, whatever it is, and correlation is, correlation is often the best we can get, but it's powerful, and you make an assumption. So being able to say at the same time this was happening as we were running our campaign, that definitely catches the eye. I think finally, just a couple of reflections on last year's entries as well. I think where the data had been outsourced to somebody else, and it kind of felt a bit like, the team hadn't really embraced data. There was a data element, but they hadn't really got into it themselves. I think that was kind of sort of want to see a bit more of the team and the individuals embracing data themselves. And it doesn't have to be always, a big complex application of data or use of data. There was a very good entry that got highly commended last year in the data category, where it was about using data to understand where something was going wrong within. So in a way, it wasn't almost an issue with the quality of the comms. There was something just in the workflow of a process that wasn't working, and having diagnosed that, the impact was really big on the recruitment campaign. So it doesn't always have to be, kind of really sort of whizzy, kind of amazing sort of big data thing. It can be just quite a simple thinking, okay, let's look at what's going on here. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Super helpful. Yeah, thanks, Alex. And you'll be proud of me, by the way, at the Fire Pro event yesterday, I used your line, credited, that data isn't insight, but we can draw insights from the data. How about that?
Good. Very good.
Are you proud?
Absolutely, Darren. My work's done.
Like a proud father or son. Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. That's really useful. So we've got about 15 minutes left before we let you all escape to go and grab a sandwich. But we've got some good questions in the chat. So thanks to everybody that's posed a question, and there's still time to pose some more if you'd like to. I'll just run down really quickly in order, and then we'll perhaps get the panel to raise their hands. We've also got people like Anna Ellis from Companies House, who's a previous winner. We've got Ruby on the call, who's a previous winner and has won lots of awards. So anyone that wants to raise a hand to answer the questions I'll pose now, please do, and we'll come to you with your answers. First off, we'll go with Linda McLean. Hi, Linda from Police Scotland. Now, I saw Linda's presentation up at the ULO event in Glasgow back in June, was it, I think? So I know Linda and the team are doing great work, so looking forward to seeing some entries. Linda's question for the panel is, I'm looking to nominate for both projects and for both projects and as an individual. I think I have a good understanding of format and content for projects, but do you have any tips for the sort of thing you want to see in individual categories? So this might be things like, you know, best comms officer or best young comms officer. Anybody got any words of wisdom for Linda on individual entries? I think, oh, we've got Carly in the chat as well. Hi to Carly. Lovely to see Carly,
Hello.
previous winner as well. And you've got your hand straight
Yes.
up. So yeah,
Straight
go
up.
for it.
Yes, because we nominated Edward last year for Young Communicator of the Year and won it. So
Yes.
I've got a pretty good graphs. So when I was writing it, because I think the form is still the same all round. So you know your strategy, why they should win it. So I was telling the story of Edward, so kind of his progression. So it was filled with data as well. So what were his objectives? Did he achieve them? Did we stretch them? Obviously he'd met all of his objectives and was a really great communicator, but also we looked at how he was not just contributing to good comms in the council, but across the community as well. So some of his other interests, he volunteered at the Lewisham Football Club as their social media manager. So he was taking the skills that he was learning in the council and putting them out into the community to good use. So it was like a real passion of his. So kind of telling that story of not just what he does within his role, but more widely that will have a positive impact for the council, for him and for the local community. And I did pepper it with as much data as I could as well.
Fantastic. And yeah, he was a very worthy winner, wasn't it? It's lovely. And it's a lovely category, this one as well, particularly for people elderly like me, to see, you know, the young talent coming through. And I think we really should celebrate it. So some really useful tips there. Thank you to Carly. Anybody else on the panel got a thought on individual entries? Any tips for Linda? If not, I shall move us on. We've got Catherine Richards from South Wales and DVLA. Hi to Catherine, great to see you on the call. We have a colleague who retired just 2 weeks ago after a magnificent 47-year career. Could we still nominate them in the Lifetime Achievement category? 100% yes. I mean, they deserve an UnAward, really, without even judging it or having a kind of public vote on it. But yeah, absolutely. And I suppose on that, yeah, it's the way I badge it is anything that people have delivered in the last 12 months. You know, we don't set an absolute hard time limit on it, but if you've worked on something good in the past 12 months, it's open to entry. But for the Lifetime Achievement Award, that's an incredible achievement, isn't it? So yeah, Catherine, absolutely. And maybe Ruby, if you're still on the call, Ruby won the Lifetime Achievement UnAward last year, which was a lovely thing to be a part of. Ruby, any thoughts for Catherine on this particular category?
I think yeah, keep it a surprise, because mine was a surprise first and foremost, and it was wonderful to be nominated for something totally unexpected, but amazing. And I think, you know, it's great to hear that your colleagues retired, but I'm sure being a comms professional, they'll probably go on to do something else. So just having that appreciation displayed to them, even just by the nomination, even if they don't win it, I think will mean the world. So I'm giving you feedback from a recipient point of view, I think. But yeah, happy to chat if you want to offline a bit more about that, but I hope that's helpful for now.
Super helpful. Yeah, thanks for that, Ruby. Where is your certificate, Ruby? Where did you put it in the end? It's
in my kitchen, and it's sitting on my dresser with the TV above it, so we always see it.
I love it.
And I'm going to bring something to show you as well while you carry on. I'll show you something my team got me, which is really funny, because obviously I left in January, didn't I? But I'll show you. I'll show you a little something before the end of the call.
Well, fantastic. Well, we look forward to that. So yeah, if you, like Ruby, would like one of these hanging up in your kitchen, do enter the UnAwards within the next 3 weeks. 3 weeks and about 9 hours, 10 hours. So yeah, thanks Ruby for that. Hopefully
got mine here, Daz.
Oh, Rob,
it's always here. Just ready for this. It's always there. Look.
Oh, look at you! You're a top man. You are.
There we
So,
go.
Rob, I know
hand.
we spoke on this webinar last year, didn't we? But tell me again, because I love I love your story. Full stop. I love you. Full stop. But your UnAward entry and actually the honest truth behind it and about when you entered it, I think actually it's quite inspirational. So yeah, tell us your story, Rob.
Yeah, I think because I remember last time, this is exactly what happened last time. Because everyone before me said, get it in early. Do it, take your time with it, make sure it's, don't be getting stressed. And I did the exact opposite, and I think I put it in on the deadline day, and it took me about half an hour, and we won. So I could see your face when I said it last year going, no, that's not the advice we're giving, Rob. No, but I think, to be fair, I think what I did say was, and what I was going to say is, which hasn't been mentioned yet, is it's about being human. The thing that we are great at in our profession is writing good stories. And I looked again, I just had a quick look at mine on, the thing that I put forward last time. And it was just me being human, talking about in a first person way, just about what we did, how shocked I was that we even were very good. And it was definitely an approach that I remember the judges saying they just enjoyed reading it. So, we can get caught up in writing formally for these things, but my advice was just be yourself, be a bit funny. I think I referenced David Bowie in The Matrix in mine somehow. So it's just stuff like that, but it caught the eye, I think. So it does help, especially when they're reading so many. And then and it wasn't long. It was like 600 words. So, and that was for a Team of the Year category. So and then the other thing, which I don't think's been plugged yet, is obviously every single entry that's ever been written is available for people to read on the commsfile.co.uk. So I'll stick that in the chat. But if anyone's looking for inspiration or to nick ideas, just go on there and they're all there for you. But yeah, that was my thing. And yeah, I did a little merry jig as we got the award because it was basically the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. So yeah, it was good. Well, my team are in the room going, "Oh, shut up about those awards, Rob."
About that. That bloody
I've got
award.
2 kids. I know I've got 2 kids, but it was still a highlight. They've just upset with me now.
Yeah. Kids are kids, but an UnAward special, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
it was a lovely. It was a lovely thing to see that winning walk. I think the famous Louisa Dean, hi Louise, is on the chat, and she's just put, Rob had the best celebration walk to collect his UnAward. So yeah, I think day. Absolutely. We've got Anna Ellis on the call from Company House as well, a previous winner. Anna, I don't know if you can hear us and if you're able to speak, but yeah, I suppose again as a previous winner, any other top tips from you that either we haven't covered or just to reinforce what others have said so far?
I think a beginning and an end, and the fact is, if you're going to set out sort of what your objectives were or what the landscape was like at the beginning before you did your campaign or your action or whatever it was, it's really useful to then reflect back on that and just really show everyone what's changed. I think sometimes we're really good at saying, oh, this is what happened at the end, but we maybe haven't put in what happened at the beginning, so you can't see what that growth is. And I think that's going to be different for all of us, when you look at numbers, maybe try and put them into percentages as well if you can, so that, because what is a big number for one organisation might be a small number for another organisation, and it's like maybe think about what that increase is. And yeah, do your best to make things easy for judges, I think, because like we've kind of said, there's a lot of things to go through. So how can you sort of make it as headlines as you can? And I mean, I don't know how everyone's going to feel about this, but when I do my applications, I'm definitely going to be using AI to sort of summarize things a bit more. Now, some people might think that's cheating. I think that's just using all the tools that are available to you. And that's the way the future's going. So yeah, if you're getting to a point, especially if you're like, oh God, I've got all this information and there's loads of it, how am I going to get it so that it really shows people, what the highlights are of this? Just get a robot to do it for you. Don't work too hard, guys.
Story of my life, Anna. Yeah. That's really wise, really wise. Yeah, no, I love that. There's some really helpful stuff there. Mindful of time, because we've got about 4 minutes left. We've got another question in the chat, which is from Rose Hampton. Rose from Staffordshire County Council, who won best campaign last year. So well done to Rose. Rose's question: what are your thoughts on putting forward a trial campaign? We've recently conducted a small trial to prove the concept, and it exceeded our expectations. Should we proceed with the trial data we have as a part of the award submission, or wait until next year when we've expanded the rollout and achieved a greater impact? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Great question. I mean, I know I'm minded to an answer, but I'll let perhaps some more experienced judges, because I don't judge. That's the other thing. I don't judge a single category in this. It wouldn't be right to do so. So, Alex, I mean, obviously there's a data element here for a start off, isn't there? There's some initial data that will be there from the trial. What would your thoughts be on this?
I mean, I think my initial reaction, to be honest, was only one way to find out. Is by entering, and what's the worst that can happen? Given Rob's good advice there, that it doesn't need to be a big, sort of huge process, I'd say go for it. And that's just my instant, kind of reaction to hearing about it. I actually wanted to know more about it, so that's a good sign. You've got me interested already.
Yeah, I think I would endorse that. Absolutely would endorse that. Mindful of time, because we've got about 2 minutes left, and I'm going to be professional and keep us to time and end it on the hour. Any final thoughts from anyone, that anything we haven't covered, or anyone that hasn't had the chance to speak? Speak now, or forever lose the opportunity. So I think, Ruby, you'd got something to show us, hadn't you?
So there's my certificate, just so that you know it's not in the attic. And then my team got me this a trophy.
Fantastic. I love it.
And it says, very cleverly, it says leader of the best comms and marketing team in the country. Very clever.
Oh, I like it. So actually kind of
leader of the best team, not the best leader. Quite right too.
Yeah, well, behind every great leader.
Absolutely.
And a very clever thing to do that.
Thank you for letting me share that.
Yeah. No, thank you. Mandy.
I was going to say, just think about what you add as attachments. Really think through. Don't just bombard, don't just put everything in. Think about which attachments really tell the story you want to tell for the award you're entering, rather than just, if you're entering the data award, really focus on the data. If you're entering one of the behavior change awards, focus on that element rather than just put everything but the kitchen sink in.
Yeah, that's really such good advice, isn't it? Less is more, isn't it? Is the phrase sometimes. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks, Mandy. So unless I can't see another hands up, so unless there's no other thoughts or questions, very excitedly, I'll do I'm gonna write a blog post, because I think there's so much insight here. But we've talked about everything from metrics. Don't have vague objectives, have smart objectives. Think about including testimonials. Data is your friend. Make sure that you've got the data, and if you haven't, go and get the data. Don't be scared to enter, somebody said, and I think that's so important. I hear all the time, we haven't done anything good this year. Everybody's done something good this year. You've probably forgotten about it in the sea of other things you've been up to. So do please enter. What is actually really creative, and I think Alan talks about really thinking widely about creativity. It's not just necessarily the visual. Thinking about using the EAST framework. John Paul talked to us about that. The AMEC evaluation framework, which JP mentioned as well. I've used that in some of my big campaigns in the past. It's a brilliant resource. Google AMEC evaluation framework and it'll come up. Got a nice interactive PDF you can use. Data storytelling, Alex talked about that. Don't leave it late versus do it last minute like Rob and still win. There's no one size fits all here. I tended to do mine quite late, but that's just me. Probably work better with a bit of a deadline, but I would start now. The older me would start now. Use the form creatively and think about writing creatively in the UnAward. Rob talked about that as well. Comms files, so either on the homepage of Comms 2.0 or off the Can Digital website, think about comms files. There's 700 plus, not just UnAward entries, but other resources in there now. And we always say, never start from scratch. Somebody somewhere has done something, particularly in the public sector. We can share and we can learn from one another. So take a look at that. AI could feature this show, which is going to be really interesting to see. Include David Bowie in your entries. That was a shout from Rob again. Mandy talks about thinking about attachments and less is more. Don't bombard people. They're busy people. They haven't got time to look at 20 things. So less is more. So I think so much there. Thank you, everybody, ever so much for your time. Thank you for attending. Thanks for the judges and for the sponsors for giving up an hour. Thanks to Danielle at Can Digital, who's organised today, and for recording it. We'll get the recording out. Share it with your teams. Encourage your colleagues to enter. You know, the best work that wins is the best work that entered. So, yeah, thanks so much to everybody. Go and get a screen break now. Go and grab a sandwich, walk the dog, whatever you need to do. And thanks so much for your time and enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you.